To round out the Basics first anniversary month, this week it's time for a look at another popular request from the comments, another of the Transformers brand's all-time major legacy characters. It's the Basics on Patient, Precise Police Bot, PROWL. The original PROWL toy was first released as part of the Japanese Diaclone toy line in 1983, under the name Police Car Fairlady Z. It was one of several figures in the series that transformed into a Datsun 280ZX Turbo sports car, distinguished from the others by the police roof lights and paint job for which it was named. Hasbro imported it to become part of the first year of the Transformers toy line in 1984, with the other Datsuns becoming PROWL's fellow Autobots Blue Streak and Smokescreen. The head of the toy even served as the basis for the design of the Autobot insignia, although the resemblance can be a little hard to spot. PROWL was one of the very earliest Transformers characters to be named and given a personality, as part of the original treatment for the franchise assembled by Marvel editor Jim Shooter and writer Denny O'Neil. The Autobot's military strategist, he was a patient warrior who dealt only in facts and logic. In the Marvel comic book, he served as the Autobot's second-in-command, leading the first mission to make contact with humankind and taking charge in the absence of Optimus Prime. The UK comic gave him a little more panel time, playing up his pragmatic tendencies in stories that saw him advocate for drastic solutions and even angrily argue tactics with Optimus Prime. Small as his part in the early years of the series was, it was nothing compared to his barely there role in the animated series. Though the cartoon's pilot miniseries suggested that PROWL occupied a similar position in the Autobot ranks to the comics, after that he faded away into the background almost immediately. Always there, but never really doing anything. His most notable adventure in animation saw him briefly partner up with the Autobots' human ally Chip Chase, who used his computer modem to remote control PROWL's damaged body through a battle with the Decepticons. PROWL's toy was discontinued in 1986, and he was killed off both in the comic, in which he was offlined by injuries sustained fighting a Decepticon-controlled duplicate of Optimus Prime, and in the Transformers the movie, a shot from the Constructicon scavenger melting him from the inside out in an iconically gruesome scene. But PROWL didn't stay gone forever. A few years later, in 1990, a new non-transforming Action Master figure of him was released, and in Europe his original toy was made available once again. This return to store shelves led to PROWL's resurrection in both the US and UK comic, and he resumed his role as second-in-command under the new Autobot leader Grimlock, whose unconventional approach to the job infuriated the logical PROWL to no end in some of his most memorable comic book scenes. PROWL sat out the Generation 2 era of the early 1990s, but later in the decade, after Hasbro had resecured the trademark on his name, they set to work making it one of the most frequently reused in Transformers toy lines. 1997 introduced a Machine Wars incarnation of PROWL who turned into a race car, and a Beast Wars PROWL, a heroic Maximal Lion who combined with teammates Ironhide and Silverbolt to form the giant warrior Magnaboss. In 1999, things got a little confusing when a second Beast Wars PROWL was introduced, a Transmetal 2 Owl, whose profile implied that he was the original PROWL in a new body. Over a decade later, stories from companies like IDW Publishing and Fun Publications would explain that the Lion was the original PROWL. The Owl was retroactively established to be a clone of him, introduced in 2005's Transformers Binaltech toy line, a fusion of PROWL's memories and Chip Chase's life force, in homage to their team-up in the original cartoon. It was 2001's Robots in Disguise that brought PROWL back to his police car roots, with a new version of the character who transformed into a Lamborghini Diablo. This PROWL operated undercover among real police cars on Earth, and lived his life by rules and protocols so strictly that it sometimes even hindered his own effectiveness. He was such a stickler for rules, he wouldn't even run a red light in the middle of a high-speed pursuit. He was the middle sibling among the show's three Autobot brothers, and spent a lot of time policing and writing up his laid-back younger brother Sideburn for various infractions. The police vehicle theme was adhered to rigidly by the other PROWLs of the early 2000s. But that theme was the extent of their relation to the original version of the character. These various new PROWLs had limited presence in media and never really gained any notoriety. Most notable was the youthful PROWL of Transformers Energon, who turned into a police-themed race car and left Cybertron to bring peace to the galaxy alongside the great Autobot leader Rodimus. Use of PROWL's name was widespread, but as a character he held little significance. He even got bumped out of being included in the first live-action movie when the filmmakers decided that they liked the idea of a Decepticon police car more than an Autobot one, and replaced him with the evil Barricade. PROWL's fortunes finally changed in 2007 with the release of Transformers Animated, which featured a new version of the character as part of its main cast. Early designs heavily based this animated PROWL on the Generation 1 character, but his finalized look, including a motorcycle alternate mode, wound up drawing from an entirely different police-themed source, the tan and black uniforms of the California Highway Patrol. The series took a sideways approach to the classic character's patient and precise personality, reimagining PROWL as a ninja. Having attempted to dodge the draft back during the war on Cybertron, PROWL had found purpose studying under Cyber Ninja Corps master Yoketron, only for his master's death to cut his training short. Embarking on a quest for enlightenment in deep space, PROWL eventually crossed paths with a space bridge repair crew led by Optimus Prime, and travelled with them to Earth. The organic world proved fascinating to PROWL, even if his infinite zen patience occasionally found limits in his rambunctious new teammates, the hot-headed Bumblebee and the klutzy Bulkhead. A series of encounters with Yoketron's killer, the bounty hunter Lockdown, led to PROWL acquiring power-enhancing samurai armor, and more importantly, helped him find enlightenment at last, as he realized that true power lay not in enhancements, but within. With this knowledge, he mastered the final ninja art of processor over matter, and willingly sacrificed his life using it to restore the destroyed Allspark. While animated PROWL was busy putting the character's name back on the map as something more than a generic police Autobot, Hasbro tightened up their approach to PROWL toys, reinstating the classic black and white colors of the Generation 1 character as the default look for future incarnations, including a Transformers Prime version of PROWL that mashed up the original and animated designs. Now, this deference to the original came in defiance of the fact that, as you've seen, he was never a particularly significant character in media. I've talked about it in previous episodes, but PROWL's another example of a bot who really only commands significant status today because he was part of the original 1984 lineup, and someone whose new toys could be easily recolored into other characters. But in the midst of all this, one piece of major media did emerge where the original PROWL was finally able to come into his own as an influential character: IDW Publishing's comic books. Building upon the foundations laid by his Marvel incarnation, IDW's PROWL grew from being merely an unlikable pragmatist into a morally ambiguous schemer who believed that any means were justified in the name of the greater good of the Autobot cause, including even the manipulation and sacrifice of fellow Autobots. Unsurprisingly, this meant he wasn't popular with the other Autobots, and worse still, it meant they never saw it coming when PROWL was taken over by the mind-controlling Insecticon Bombshell and used to attack them from within. While in Bombshell's thrall, PROWL was experimented on by the Decepticons and merged with the Constructicons to create a new incarnation of the Combiner Devastator, with PROWL as its head. But this wasn't the only Combiner upgrade he would undergo. As part of 2015's Combiner Wars toy line, a new toy of PROWL was released which could merge with Optimus Prime, Ironhide, Sunstreaker and Mirage to form Optimus Maximus, an idea that was soon incorporated into IDW's stories. Though freed from Bombshell's control, the experience left its mark on PROWL. He grew increasingly erratic, repeatedly finding himself at odds with his fellow Autobots, until finally he used the enigma of combination to forcibly combine himself and his comrades in a misguided effort to stop Starscream from making contact with Cybertron's colony planets. The others were able to wrest control of their combined form away from him, and ever since, PROWL's been on the run, acting outside the law to pursue his own objectives in the name of protecting Cybertron, and facing specters from his past determined to make him face up to the consequences of his cold, calculating actions. Hopefully future incarnations of PROWL will continue to enjoy the same attention and significance the IDW and animated versions did, ensuring that he remains a character who earns his prominent legacy status compared to the many more forgettable bearers of his name, whether he's a cop, a ninja, black and white, or morally grey. And those are the basics on PROWL. Tell me about your favourite incarnation of him in the comments, and remember to click that bell while you're down there to be notified about future episodes. Until next time, remember to like, share, subscribe, and visit Patreon to support the show.